I decided to. Hello there. This is Man 26. I decided to do videos today for my subscribers. Just then I was feeling like it. And also, I haven't done videos for them in ages, and I feel bad about it. I want to start off by saying one thing, and I'm not going to go in too heavy about this before I go in onto the subject. Um, Kurt Angle has to be let back into the WWE. It would be a slap in the face of wrestling if he isn't let back into the WWE after his contract. And I will know it is Triple H, and I will surely do a video on it if he is not allowed back into the WWE. And I think it's something that only true wrestling fans should be doing videos on if the WWE rejects him. It's appalling. That is what the guy needs. Get healthy, to be on a Legends contract, to show that we appreciate everything he has done for the business and how he has put his body on the line for his business. He's one of the biggest stars in wrestling. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Okay, go back to the early 2000s. Go back to the ruthless aggression era, and that guy ran roughshod in terms of entertainment value in and outside of the ring. He is a true fucking legend, and I put him in the same breath Stone Cold Steve Austin and fucking The Rock without blinking. I think he was that good. Okay. So I just wanted to start off that I will do a video on that if he's not allowed back into the WWE. That is bullshit. Um, Okay. There's one thing I forgot to address in my last Daniel Bryan video on the Yes Movement debate, um, which is some people were saying Daniel Bryan is TPG. I'm so fed up of this TPG thing. I think it's so utterly ridiculous, and also it's a fucking slap in the face. There's so many great legends who came before the Attitude Era. Okay, now ECTPG, the gimmick at the moment, I think, as I've said in my last video, has a shelf life. It's not a cool gimmick going around going yes, yes, yes. It's just not a cool gimmick. I mean, it's not something that I think will resonate for long. I don't think it will appeal to casual viewers. I don't think it will bring in more viewers. I think the whole of WWE is going on a nosedive, not because of being PG, but just being up with the times. It can be PG, probably be better if it wasn't, considering the kind of things that are in trend at the moment. But to say Daniel Bryan is PPG, Daniel Bryan, from his wrestling skills, I will say this: I think he would have made it in the Attitude Era. From his wrestling skills and his personality, I really do think if he was given a push on the basis of being just a really good fucking wrestler, he would have made it in the Attitude Era in the same vein as Chris Benoit and whatever. Especially if he had a good writing team behind him. But he's got a bit of charisma in the sense that, you know, he has that kind of everyman kind of thing. He just loves wrestling. He just loves the business. He loves wrestling. And they could book him like that. So do I think he's TPG? I don't think he's TPG. I think his gimmick isn't good. His gimmick is not what's getting him over. It's what's the reality of what is going on or what has gone on in his career and how he was held back to a certain point, and it was a complete shoot that he was being held back up until the point they realised, oh, wait a second, we might have something here. And then they made it into a work after Daniel Bryan, you know, yes, Trump started hijacking the show so consistently. So before they were trying to fucking not bury him, but they were trying to be like, ah, this is just a flash in the pan, much like Dolph Ziggler. That's what they were. They were trying to Dolph Ziggler him. but they couldn't do it, you know. Um, so yeah, I mean, in terms of that, that's all I'm really gonna say on that. Now I want to talk about the Attitude Era, okay? Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, greatest era in wrestling, this, that, and the other, and fucking, um, you know, they just go on and on and on about the fucking Attitude Era. I myself, I'm gonna come straight out on the line. I'm not a massive fan of the Attitude Era in terms of, in comparison to other eras of wrestling. I think the Rock and Wrestling era was as good as the Attitude Era. I think, or had the entertainment value there of the Attitude Era. Obviously, wrestling itself became more sophisticated. There were um, people that that stood on the shoulders of giants and developed moves and counters and ways of being in the ring and ways of cutting promos to appeal to audiences that they built upon the legacies of those who were in the rock and wrestling era and in your house era. Legends like Jake the Snake obviously had influences on people like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Legends like Classy Freddie Blassie had influences on people like The Rock. It's nothing to do with whether it is PG-14 or not. It's the type of men that were in the wrestling industry and how they held themselves prior to this era, which is just everything about it is pussified, as Bruce Blitz says, and the Blitz team usually say. It's just pussified, and then, you take someone like fucking Adam Rose, okay, okay, I'll go into the Adam Rose thing after. All right, let me start with this. I was not a big fan of the Attitude Era in terms of the material, the salacious material, the sexual content, and the objectification, the sexual exploitation of women, to titillate kind of fans. I didn't find that if I wanted to see a woman's breasts or I want to see a fucking, a sexy woman, I'll go out to a fucking club and I'll try and find one. Okay, uh, I had no interest in that. I had interest in entertaining people who would entertain me on the mic and then come in and put on a classic in the ring. That's what I was interested in. All right, and so I wasn't a fan of the Attitude Era per se. I was a fan of individuals in the Attitude Era. I was a fan of The Rock. I was a fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was a fan of Mick Foley. I was a fan of the TLC trio, the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys. I was a fan of, you know, uh, fuck. Um, I'm trying to think of who else. Like I was a fan of Kurt Angle. I was a fan of the Undertaker, and I was a fan of him before the Attitude Era because he was just a fucking good character and a great fucking wrestler. So I was a fan of him even before the Attitude Era. It didn't matter that he was in the Attitude Era. Yeah, he changed up his gimmick somewhat, but to be honest, I like the classic Undertaker more. Like the one that was more reminiscent of the classic Undertaker with the Ministry Undertaker. I was much more a fan of than one who kind of changed his gimmick up to be the American Badass. Um, Even though I like that as well, I was a fan of less so of Chris Jericho, but like now looking back at it, Chris Jericho is so much more entertaining than anything in the fucking business right now, including fucking CM Punk. Maybe the yeah, no, yeah, everyone in business right now. Bray, you can give me your Bray Wyatts or the Ambroses or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, Chris Jericho is a billion times more of a polished performer all around than any of those guys. I think they have the possibility, the capability of becoming on that level, definitely, but like not yet. So, uh, the the Attitude Era itself. I mean, a lot of the gimmicks, a lot of the things that Vince McMahon himself was responsible for was shit. Okay, let's face it. All right, or what? Say like someone like DX. Okay, they had their shelf life. They didn't have the kind of um, you know longevity that people like The Rock or Stone Cold or Mick Foley or Kurt Angle or Edge or the Dudley Boys had. It was a gimmick that was going to get, and luckily, Shawn Michaels and fucking Triple H were smart enough to know that that gimmick had a shelf life, and they shelved it. And Triple H became a singles competitor and one of the greatest singles competitors ever to Lacey's boots, even though I don't like him, but I'll give him his due where he's due. It was much better the game gimmick for me than his DX gimmick where he would fucking get out his ass and have a fucking mistletoe on his fucking ass. I'm like, why do I want to see Triple H's ass? On what level? Or badass Billy Gunn, like fucking moving people. Why do I want to see that? Am I a fucking 11-year-old? Am I 10? Do I find showing my ass to people funny? I didn't get it. Most of these things. And then there were characters like Val Venus, and then like really racist Chinese character. I chop off your pee or whatever they did with fucking Val Venus. I actually did like Sexual Chocolate, but again, the Sexual Chocolate when he was dating the old woman and she gave birth to a fucking cat. Everything that Vince McMahon was responsible for in the Attitude Era was shit. The things that were really good were the organic wrestlers because he gave wrestlers the ability to be themselves. And some of them did better than others. People like The Rock and Stone Cold did much better. People like Mankind did much better. As I said, most of the gimmicks, the whole train. You think fucking that guy, what's his name? Fucking the Godfather or whatever his name is ever going to go into the Hall of fucking Fame. I fucking doubt it. Or well, they're thinking about putting Rikishi with his fucking big fat ass, into the Hall of Fame. I don't know why. I mean, I really don't understand that. If they put Rikishi into the Hall of Fame, that will tarnish the Hall of Fame because he was shit. Okay, I think they're thinking about putting him in next year. And I'm like, are you fucking serious with Rikishi? No fucking offense to him as a, he did his best considering the fucking limit, but it was awful. And I doubt it was his idea. I doubt he thought, oh, I've got a big ass and wear a thong to the ring and then stick my ass in people's faces. I'm pretty sure the WWE stuck him with that gimmick when really what he could have been was a big athletic guy. He was just a fucking monster, which is what he should have been booked as. Maybe they thought, oh, we've got too many of those. Let's get a big fat guy to dance around in a song. Okay, not cool, not cool in the slightest. So you compare that to the rock and wrestling age, okay, where you had like fucking real, like in terms of like the amount of cool iconic characters, $1 Million Man, I mean, there were so many cool iconic characters that most of the guys who were fucking amazing didn't even get WWE championships. You had Mr. Perfect, $1 Million Man, fucking Hulk Hogan, Macho Man. You had Mr. Perfect. You had fuck me, like there were just the amount of talent, Ric Flair, the Legion of Doom, the amount of fucking badasses who would go out to the ring and fuck shit up in that era and not have to do silly things like rely on some fucking girl to show her tits to get over or stick their asses in people's face and rub it in their face or whatever it is they were fucking doing in the Attitude Era. or doing kiss my ass matches. I mean, who the fuck, like, so cold doing a kiss my ass match where the winner has to kiss his ass. I mean, and fucking, Vince McMahon taking his trousers down. And I respect Vince McMahon as a performer, but some of his ideas are fucking ludicrous. He takes his trousers down and starts like whining so that Shawn, Shawn Michaels will have to stick his face in his arse. I mean, is he listening to this? Do you think Brock Lesnar would have done that? I doubt it very, very fucking much. A kiss my ass match. Ah, all I'm saying is the Attitude Era, of course, is much better than the PG era. But the PG era is not bad because of the fucking rating that it is. It's bad because the people, the wrestlers, aren't allowed to be themselves. Any great era of wrestling, look at the last really bad era of wrestling in the WWE. It was the most gimmick heavy um, time, period of time, apart from the TV era. Gimmick heavy in the sense of these are people who are just being allowed to be themselves, allowed to be, to project their own personalities, but on a much bigger scale. Like in like in the NWA, that was basically what it was. It was Dusty Rhodes, it was Ric Flair, it was Magnum TI. It was just real men, and they just amplified their own personalities. The last bad era of wrestling was the just in your house era of wrestling, where so many gimmicks like Doink the Clown and the midget Doink Dink and fucking Bastion Booger, and all of these fucking terrible characters. They would just slap these on these gimmicks rather than just getting these wrestlers and allowing them to be themselves. You know, and therefore, people talk about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart not being a big draw. Do you blame them when the WWE was so naff and they've just come off a huge steroid scandal? So that they come off this huge steroid scandal, and suddenly it was like, oh, we have to soften up. So not only will we have like very small, not beefed up wrestlers, so that we know that they're not on steroids, but we'll also have like all these stupid fucking uh, gimmicks like clowns wrestling, and something nice for the family. Fucking, you know, Bastion Booger, man whose gimmick was that he had a booger in his nose, that kind of fucking shit. And that's what you get in the PG era. The PG era is a direct response to a huge scandal, which was fucking Chris Benoit killing his family, and people blaming that on head injuries that Chris Benoit got. So they have to tone down the product, and that's where you get all these gimmicks. And the fucking sick thing about the PG era, which is even worse, is at least in the in your house era, it was genuine family entertainment. It was actually family entertainment. When you go back and look at it, as bad as it was, I'd let my son watch the fucking in your house era. I wouldn't have a problem with that. It'd be like, okay, he's enjoying the clown, and maybe it'll make him laugh, and then other fucking weird and wonderful characters that might make him laugh. There was Mankind, there was, you know, all these fucking gimmicks or whatever. But there wasn't, like all the, like these days, I mean, look at the fucking Divas division. You call that, I mean, I'm not saying it's, I have no problem with fucking women or whatever, like, being dressed like a fucking whore, but they are. They're dressed like fucking whores, okay? Worse than whores. alright? And then the moves they're doing are incredibly fucking sexually provocative. How is that for children? And it's lame. It's not only not for children, it's also lame. I'd rather see women who are actual fucking wrestlers rather than these models that are being turned into wrestlers and being made to wear clothes of fucking hoes. At least the fucking women of the Attitude Era were fucking sexy and dressed like hoes, and we knew it was for fucking adults. We knew that, oh, when this bit comes on with Trish Stratus or somebody else taking out her fucking breasts or whatever, we close the kid's eyes, or like, Muffin close his eyes, so at least we had that kind of buffer where, okay, the sexual content had some place. In this PG era, it's not even really PG, it's just fucking warped. They're using these sexualized figures. You look at someone like, Adam Rose, who is very, very similar to Goldust, who was even too much for even the Attitude Era. Even in the Attitude Era, Goldust was he was dialed back because it was just like, whoa, this is a bit too edgy even for us, you know. And now we've got this Adam Rose character who is the weirdest fucking. I mean, it's not even like I've got nothing against gay people, no problems with them, you know, actually very supportive of gay rights. Nothing to do with that. I think that is a very confusing, conflicting, weird fucking character that kids should not be watching. Whether it's because he represents some party guy who's on fucking drugs, don't be a lemon, be a rosebud, or whatever he fucking says. Whether it's because he's got some conflicting in terms of his sexual identity and how he is representing gays, as weird, because I've never met a gay person like him, but they're representing him as if he's somewhat gay or something. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck he is. If I was a parent, I would be highly concerned about my kid watching something like that because it's conflicting in message. I don't know what is it trying to say to me. So there's a lot about the PG era that isn't even that fucking. It's not. It's it's cheesy and it's crap and it's unentertaining and it's not even really, it's using sexual, content in a way that supposedly is okay for kids to watch. I have no idea why a lot of, you know, again, I just, to me, the PG era is the most confusing, conflicting era of all time. It doesn't know what it wants to be. Um, and, yeah, and I can see why people look back at the Attitude Era and think, oh wow, it was all wonderful and all of this kind of shit. But really, it was just the fact that people were allowed to be themselves. That Stone Cold and The Rock and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Triple H and Kurt Angle, they were all allowed to be themselves and therefore they became entertaining, you know. Whereas and it was the same with the rock and wrestling generation, where you had like everyone from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to Jake the Snake to Ric Flair. All of these guys were allowed to be themselves, and then they became larger than life characters because of that. Mr. Perfect, Bobby the Brain Heenan. You can't tell me Bobby the Brain Heenan wasn't as entertaining as a lot of the shit that you find in the Attitude Era. He was. He's a legend. Same with Mr. Perfect. I don't care who you're talking about from the fucking rock and wrestling era. PG didn't diminish the fact that it was genuine fucking tough guys going out there and putting on a show for us in terms of entertaining us outside of the ring with their promos and the build up to the matches, and then executing in the matches good stories, more good technical wrestling, whatever the case, whatever their strengths may be. You know, with Hulk Hogan, it was a good storyteller, or you know, or at least he was good in terms of building up kind of big fight feel, you know, to the matches. With Macho Man, it was a great storyteller. With Ricky Dragon Steamboat and the Bret Harts of the world, it was good technical wrestling, you know, stuff that we hadn't seen. So altogether, it was an entertaining product, and they could deliver in and outside of the ring. You know, Shawn Michaels, it was high flying, flamboyant. You know, that's all that matters. This PG generation will become so much better. Where it's not even to say that, oh, just give them free reign to say whatever they want on TV. It's more the sense of let them choose the character they, or let them have some kind of influence on what character they portray on TV. Give them a chance. If they can't come up with anything interesting, yeah, sure, slap them with a gimmick. If they just want to be slapped with a gimmick, slap them with a gimmick. But if they have a good idea for the character, why not allow them to possibly portray that to the best of their ability? That is what will save wrestling. That really is what will save wrestling. Not a PG or PG-14. You can have a PG-14, and if Vince McMahon keeps on being completely in control of the characters and scripting every single fucking line that's said, then no, you're not going to get a more entertaining product. The reason people like Bray Wyatt are standing out right now is because, as I've heard, Bray Wyatt isn't completely scripted. He helps in terms of coming up and building and developing that character that he's portraying on TV. That's that was the magic of wrestling. You know, that's the magic that you have in UFC. It's the magic that you had in boxing, in the greater eras of boxing or whatever. It was when you had the story of two titans, two of the greatest in their sport colliding, and the build up to that moment where they actually fight with each other, and the story that is told, whether it's Ali Frazier or Tyson and Bruno, or the story that's being told as the elements slowly kind of come together before finally they they conflict, with each other in the ring. That is why, Hulk versus Andre the Giant is such a great match. Because it's that build up of like until it finally converges into the great moment. And the only way you can make those great iconic moments is by letting these guys be themselves. And who knows? I don't I think Cena will still be corny as fuck from what I've seen on that fucking show, Divas or whatever. I've only watched a few episodes. I promise I'm not an avid watcher of that show. But from what I've seen of that show, I don't think Cena could ever be good at all. But who knows? He might even be better than than people think. But like, nah, actually, Cena actually does script a lot, and he's full of shit with these good guys. Like, I want to be a good guy bullshit. Sorry, fuck Cena. I don't know why I was going into that, but like the point is, allow these guys to be who they are. Those all the best eras of wrestling, and all the best characters in wrestling, all the most transcendent, iconic characters in wrestling were allowed to just be amplified versions of themselves, and then they were great. Okay. That's my piece on the PG era. Thank you very much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like, subscribe, and do comment on the two videos I've done today. And I'm sorry I haven't been around for a while. I'm trying my best.